The period of lockdown is just about over for most of us in the UK as we all learn to live with COVID. But lockdowns come in many shapes and sizes, and there are some imposed by force, which only serve to protect the powerful while hiding evidence of their murderous intentions. I was reminded of this as I trawled through TRT's most excellent video service and came across a little Palestinian girl from Jenin. Every time I see or hear the name of Jenin, I'm taken back to mid-April 2002, when the Israeli military scrambled to hide one of its biggest war crimes of this century in the occupied West Bank. Israeli soldiers killed at least 52 Palestinians in the Jenin refugee camp. Having completed their killing spree between the 1st and the 11th of April, at the height of the Second Al-Aqsa Intifada, Israeli troops would have gone. But for one thing, how could they hide the evidence of this massacre? Those in charge of so-called Operation Defensive Shield decided to enforce a siege so tight that no one, despite global protests, could get past Israel's ring of steel. It was a total lockdown. It lasted for weeks while the Israeli government mobilized malleable politicians and government advisors to mislead a gullible media and public. Accomplished liar, the late Colin Powell, was ushered in to give a press conference, ironically from the King David Hotel in Jerusalem, where Zionist terrorists had planted a bomb back in 1946, killing more than 90 people, including many British. To the assembled media gathered, he assured them that there was no evidence of a massacre, and by the 23rd of April, he was back in Washington briefing senators exactly the same. The reason Powell saw nothing was because he never went to Jenin, so could never have seen the evidence that I saw as one of the first journalists to reach inside the refugee camp. Powell, the man who lied at the UN about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq during the build-up to the 2003 invasion, lied about the Jenin massacre. The late Ariel Sharon insisted only terrorists had died in Jenin, but I saw the bodies of the dead being pulled from the rubble, including children, women, and a man in a wheelchair. They were no reasonable person's idea of terrorists. In their bid to cover up the massacre, the Israelis buried many of the bodies under the buildings, demolished by a bulldozer. Some were still alive when the bulldozer moved in. That is what eyewitnesses told me. By the 19th of April, Human Rights Watch managed to get inside and spent a week gathering evidence for a 48-page report, which left everyone in no doubt that war crimes had been committed inside the refugee camp. My few hours in Jenin marks one of the darkest days of my career as a journalist. And every time I recall it, the unmistakable odor of rotting flesh from corpses buried underneath the mounds of rubble by the Israelis fills my nostrils. If I can still remember the massacre of Jenin so vividly, God alone knows what the Palestinians who lived through it feel like today. As I walked around the town in April 2002, the only homes left standing all bore battle scars from the onslaught of F-16 fighter jets and Apache attack helicopters and their Hellfire missiles. This wasn't a war zone. This was on Jenin's residential addresses, its residential areas. I can still hear the cries of a man called Marwan, who told me how his wife had bled to death in his arms after shrapnel had severed a major vein, ripped through her jugular vein.
أنا بودي لهم إنه إحنا مش رح نبكي أبدا، مش رح نرجع لهم أبدا، هدوا بيتنا عادي مش مهتمين عشاننا رح نبني.
شو رسالتك للاحتلال لوالدك في السجن؟
بابا أنت تاج فوق رؤوسنا وأنت بطلنا وبطل كل العالم، رح تتحرر بإذن الله. الفرج قريب لأن السجن عمره ما سكر أحدا ورح تطلع يا بطل.
And now for something completely different. The man, formerly known as Prince Andrew, has given a woman who he's never met £12 million. The Queen must have emitted a sigh of relief that the growing scandal around her favourite Sprog would go away in time for her Platinum Jubilee celebrations. However, now it seems there's more trouble brewing on the royal horizon, this time involving her eldest son and heir, Prince Charles. His office is accused of dishing out honours and titles in exchange for charitable donations to his trust. Scotland Yard has launched a police investigation into the Cash for Honours scandal embroiling the Prince's Foundation. The probe comes after the Foundation's former chief exec, Michael Fawcett, quit his job amid accusations of promising to secure a knighthood and British citizenship for a Saudi donor. All we need now is for the Queen's youngest, Prince Edward, to be exposed for some wrongdoing, and then we'll have a royal hat-trick of shame. Remind me again why Britain needs a royal family.